Would you look at that? It's time to calibrate again. This is episode 46. I'm Mark Levesque. He's Bob Allaby. And instead of Brent Barbiar, we've got Jason Hutton on co-hosting duty. If the listeners have been paying attention, then they already know our guest today is none other than Matt Smith Johnson, a.k.a. Teenage Grandpa. Welcome back to the show, Matt.
Hey, thanks for having me.
No problem. Glad you're here. We are legally bound to present our wrists. Matt, you're up first. What do you have on?
Of course, I had to wear it today. I mean, I've been wearing it quite a bit, but the Thunderclap chronograph. This is my prototype that I've been so proudly adorning. And yeah, this is still something that I'm like, kind of like, pinch me a little bit of like, I can't believe I got to do this. And no, look, I have manifest this thing on my wrist.
So that's the Isotope Moonshot Thunderclap edition.
Yeah. That's about the coolest chronograph I've seen in forever, man. Like, I can remember seeing the original ones in Toronto a couple years ago, and I was just like, wow. Yeah.
Wait till you see it in person, Bob. It's quite special.
Yeah, I was the first time I saw the moon, it was my favorite chronograph when I first saw that thing come out. And I was like, wow. And every time I saw Jose, I would like go over and like, let me just ogle this thing for a while. And, you know, and then I was walking the floor at, I think it was the Toronto Timepiece show. And he just approached me. He's like, hey, you want to do a collaboration? And I was like, oh, yeah, of course. He's like, do you want to stick maybe a moonshot chronograph? And I'm like, yeah. And then I think I mentioned last time I've always wanted to do a telemeter. And he's like, yeah, I was thinking of doing like a telemeter, you know. And I'm like, what is happening here?
So your arm didn't need much twisting, is what you're saying?
No, just play it in my head. I'm just like, play it cool, play it cool, play it cool. Yeah, I don't do that.
Well, manifestation at its best.
Yeah.
So I love it.
What you guys got on?
Yeah, Jason, you're up.
I've got, I'm sitting beside Bob here, so I'm going to lean over so you guys can enjoy it. So I've got the Chrono Tokyo Reiwa 5th Anniversary Edition. This is one of my favorite dress watches. I love this thing. I've had it for about a year. And yeah, that's what I've got on my wrist today. Absolutely love this watch.
Yeah, those are cool.
Very cool. What about you, Bob?
For me, I have been wearing like almost every single day for a particular reason since I got this watch, the UTD 8000 from RZE Watches. It arrived the day I started doing a bathroom renovation. So it's been perfect for reno duties. So yeah.
Oh, nice. Is it on a cloth strap there? Is it like one of those stretchy kind of?
Yeah, it's like a Velcro stretchy strap. I'm grabbing I'm gonna get the bracelet for it eventually. Maybe
looks great on that strap.
What's that?
Looks great on that strap. Matches your hat too.
I know. I was just gonna say, yeah, matches the Leafs hat, which I'm slightly embarrassed to be wearing right now.
As you should be. Speaking as a Montreal Canadiens fan. Well, not last week, I think week before that, I made a little trade with a friend of mine, James Fournier, Flying Spring Bars fame, and I wound up getting the G-Shock Square in the metal.
Ooh,
and
nice.
2 days ago, I went and brushed the bezel on it.
Ooh.
You did it?
Yeah.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, I did it. And I just couldn't. I mean, the watch is awesome. It's a tool watch. It's meant to be beaten and worn and fun with. I just didn't understand why the bezel, the whole head, is polished while the bracelet's brushed. It just didn't make any sense to me.
How'd you do it? With like a SOS pad?
Yeah, not SOS, but Scotch-Brite.
Okay.
And the weird thing is I tried brushing it vertically to match the brushing on the bracelet. And unfortunately, you just can't get close enough to the bezel, the top part that says G-Shock on it, to get the striations in there. So I had to do it horizontally. Because I saw it online, someone else had done that, and it looked really good. So I did that, and it's not perfect, but you know what? It's going to get beaten, and it's going to show scratches, and it's going to look really cool. And I think it looks a lot better this way. So,
yeah.
Awesome.
That's what I got on wrist. I found out something really cool after the fact. Did you know there's a reminder feature in this watch, right? So you set it up on your phone, you put a reminder, say, feed the cat or whatever. And anytime you hit the light button, so it glows the regular illuminator blue or whatever it is. And then once that fades out, it flashes red 3 or 4 times.
Oh,
and it's amazing. It's really cool. I've been playing with that a lot lately.
oh, that's cool. So that's the updated movement in there. That's not.
No, I think this is the B5000. You're thinking the B5600, which is a different kind of panel. This is the one
Yeah.
before that. It's the standard. It does have the Bluetooth connectivity, so you can hook up from your
Oh,
phone.
but that one's got the Bluetooth. Okay,
Yeah,
because I have one of those, but it's the like old. Like it doesn't.
yeah,
I was like, oh, mine does that? No, it doesn't do that. I guess
yeah.
mine
No, this
just.
is the one right after. So it's got the
Ah, yeah,
multi-band
yeah, yeah,
6, and it's got the GPS calibration, and it's got that cool reminder feature. But it doesn't do some of the other features that the 5600 does,
yeah,
which
yeah,
I think the display is a little more dot matrixy. It's
yeah, yeah, yeah,
this is more standard LED kind of thing.
yeah. I
Yeah,
love the old school digital look, man. There's just something to it that's like I grew up. It's you're never like the nostalgia for that is just never, for me is just so strong. Like,
absolutely, absolutely, and it's fully metal. The solid links and all that stuff. It just feels substantial on the wrist. It's kind of like best of both worlds. 'Cause me, I love bracelets, right? I'm not a strap guy,
yeah,
so for it to have a bracelet and it's got a nice heft to it and it's nice and solid. And I had to take the thing apart to take the bezel off. And it's even the inner case is metal and DLC coated and it's super solid. I'm really pleased with it.
yeah, that's cool. Those are cool.
It's kind of hard to wear other watches when something does this so well. Of course, I mean, it does not look luxurious by any state of the imagination, but it's just cool. It's fun.
Ah, luxurious. This like whatever. This whatever's fun, man. Like
Yeah,
like
yeah,
whatever.
yeah, exactly. Whatever makes you happy. It's important.
We're all Canadians here. We like to have fun, and Canadians love their tool watches as well.
Yeah.
For sure,
Yeah,
for sure.
yeah. Plus, I'm an oaf. Like, if whatever I wear is going to get dents and it's going to be banged off door frames. I'm just like, it's funny. I find it kind of ironic that I do like. I mean, I do the design part, but I don't handle them too, and have to, go inside. I wouldn't be able to. I'm too much of a, just a clumsy kind of oafish,
Sledgehammer
like
kind of guy.
sledgehammer kind of guy. That's exactly the term I'm looking for. Yeah, I'm the sledgehammer. So
So before we start with the questions here and we put Matt on the hot seat, let's do a little brief bio. So Matt Smith Johnson is a Toronto-based industrial and graphic designer, best known in the watch world under the moniker Teenage Grandpa. Working through his studio, Sentient Creative, Matt has built a reputation as one of the most distinctive creative voices in modern watch design, collaborating with brands such as Laco, Vero, Seals, Dietrich, Isotope, and most recently Prevail. His design language is instantly recognizable, bold use of color, unconventional geometry, and a willingness to challenge the traditional watch aesthetics, often blending futuristic and retro influences into something really his own. Matt's path into watches began hands on, crafting small batch leather straps by hand as an entry point into the industry, with a long term goal of designing complete watches. Deeply influenced by art, music, graphic design, culture, he traces his creative roots back to childhood when he immersed himself in drawing, album art, and illustrations, and foundations that continue to shape his work. Today, through Teenage Grandpa, Matt continues to push boundaries of watch design, contributing to some of the most visually daring and concept-driven pieces in the independent watch world. What do you think, Matt? I covered pretty much all of it.
oh man, that was too kind. That
I always say it would have sounded so much better if I didn't stumble. But
yeah,
you know
yeah.
what? It's me. I'm gonna stumble.
That's fine. That's fine. I mean, we just went over. I'm an oaf, and I was just like, that was the. You made me
Yeah, that was a
sound like a
sledgehammer,
real.
sledgehammer
Yeah,
intro.
yeah. Well, you made me sound like a real polished professional there.
Well, you are, man. There's no denying it at this point. Track record speaks for itself.
Oh, well, thank you. Yeah, I've been very fortunate to find myself where I am right now, being able to do this like as much as I have, and I took a kind of weird roundabout way of getting into the industry, and it was a long arc to get here. But I think also to be, there's part of me that, the other day I was talking to some colleague, fellow creative, and I was, like, kind of wish I got into this sooner, or pushed harder, da da da. And they're like, well, you're here now. And then I said, but also to be fair to myself, it was very different. Like when I first had the idea of like, oh, it'd be so cool to do a watch, it was in like early 2000s, I'll say like 2007 or something like that. And I had a buddy of mine help me look into it. And, there wasn't micro brands as such
Not like there is now. Yeah.
as they are now. I think there was Christopher Ward was around, and I remember watching that. I remember seeing their first piece come out, finding it on forums and stuff. And I think Zetum was is that a brand that was around then? Like,
Yeah.
there was a handful of people doing it. And anyway, my buddy looked into it, got some contacts, and it was, just crazy amounts of money and like no control, and basically no one wanted to deal with you, and the vibe was, like, you'll give us a watch design, we'll make what you want, we'll pay, you'll charge you what you want, and you'll say thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I was just like, well, that's too much risk, and like I don't have that kind of money, so what's another way to get in here, right? And yeah, with the straps, yeah, that was my first.
Yeah. Crowdsourcing didn't exist back then, right? There wasn't any, Patreon or whatever crowdsourcing that was available now.
Yeah.
So you're basically a 20-year overnight success.
It's funny too. Speaking of like crowdsourcing, even online, like before. So with my stepbrother, who's also a graphic designer, um, we had with another one of his friends, we had a clothing company, like a streetwear company from I think I was maybe it started 2005, I'd say. Only lasted a few years, but like we were still like printing catalogs, like physical catalogs. You had to get your sales samples on a rack and like walk around with them and like go door. Like you had to get stocked in a shop, or we'd sell them at like festivals. Like we go to Wake Stock and set up a booth and sell them, like have a DJ and sell them there. Like it was really hard. Like people sold things online and bought things online, but just the trust and and then by 2008 there was the financial kind of crisis, and with other problems in the company, it was just one thing too many, and the whole thing came crashing down. But like people were really starting to push online, and there was like sellers like I remember for streetwear, like Karma Loop was like, I don't even know if they're still around, but like that stuff started to come online. People really started to push like doing drops and things, and it was just like all of this, like it just so much changed like really quickly in the world when really things became online, and
For sure.
and now the trust is just there for like purchasing things online. Like people do it all the time and don't.
Yeah, I don't even think much about it.
Yeah.
And this is back before Teenage Grandpa was Teenage Dad.
That's right. Yeah. Before I was, I was just floating around there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So speaking of your moniker there, we briefly covered this on the short clip we put in 2 episodes ago, but might as well go into it in case, some of the listeners missed it. So what's behind the name Teenage Grandpa? Where did that all come from, and how did that get all started?
Well, there is on so yeah, I was I had this idea of making the straps, and also I used to do pocket squares too. That was like another main thing. So I had these pocket squares that were kind of like, again, it's like a very old, I used to, for work I would wear suits when I was like still working in like studios and agencies or whatever. So I like wearing suits, at the time, and I was like, oh, it might as well look good, but I don't want to look traditionally. I want to do something different. And I saw that there was like some people have these really wild pochette pocket squares, and I was like, oh, I should make some of those. So I came up with some patterns for that. Like, one was just like all these melting pizzas that connected into this pattern, and another one was a bunch of that one was called Turbo Pizza. That was the name of that. Like I titled these things as I went. And the other one was called Shanky Hanky, and it was a bunch of prison shanks. Like blood. And I think I had like another like some like very anti-establishment type designs, which I can't quite remember them all. I think another one was a bunch of tasers and things and donuts and stuff. I can't remember. But I had these patterns. And I was like, oh, it'd be so cool to put these on like a fine silk kind of, pocket square. And it's just like this, like, opposite kind of thing. You got this pocket square, and then you have this like kind of like gnarly things that I want to put on them. And then I was just like, to be honest, like the first origin, I was looking for something. I love these like, contradictory terms, and like I used to have on my old website for my portfolio that if you went to a page that was dead or something went wrong, I had this thing, and it would go to a page and there was like a baby with a big brow, and it said, "Baby caveman break internet." And I just loved baby caveman because it was like so opposite. Yeah. So I was like, oh, do I call this baby caveman? It doesn't quite work. I don't know. Anyways, just watching 30 Rock one night, And I can't remember the guy. It's Judah. Judah Friedlander played the kind of like hipster writer guy, and he always had the ironic hats on, like the big trucker hats. And then one day on one of the episodes, he was just wearing one. It just said "Teenage Grandpa," and it was so dumb. Like, and they never explain or talk about the hats he wore. They would always say these wild things, and it just made me laugh so hard. And then I thought about it for a bit, and I was like, actually, that's kind of perfect. Like, that's like the teenage grandpa, the young and the old, like the punk rock and the traditional. And I was like, that's the thing I've been looking for. So that's like put that on my handkerchief layouts and like made a logo that I like hand drew that was kind of crusty looking, the original one. And I just thought, oh man, this like with a little lightning bolt. And I thought this is it. This fits everything. And then I made a little brand and started stamping that on the straps I was working on and starting to stockpile to open the shop. And it just worked. And so yeah, I opened Teenage Grandpa on Etsy, and I'm pretty sure at the time I remember having to submit photos to prove to them that I was making them. So I had to have a friend come over and just they weren't great photos, but photos of me just to prove like I actually make these by hand and submit them before I could open my shop. And I'm pretty sure I was the only strap seller on there at the time. So this is like in ye old timey internet. And yeah, I just, that contradiction of the things, and it fits for watches and everything I just wanted to do. Like, and I do like traditional things. Like I love, a lot of the designers and people that I've like looked up to over the years, like Paul Rand is, I guess, kind of maybe it's a basic bitch answer, but he's great. He's a great Dieter Rams also. But like, these are people that were like, mid-century kind of modern, but like, that follow the rules type guys also, and say really understand the rules, traditionalists in a sense, I guess you could say. And I really appreciate that and understanding that. But then I know that also once you understand that, that's when you can kind of break the rules and you can kind of go outside of that. So, just I have this respect for those old things and old watches from the 40s I love. And then yeah, also I listened to heavy metal. I grew up on punk rock. I skateboard, skateboard culture and all that kind of stuff. So I just thought, yeah, this is where I want to go. And it just seems to have stuck. I tried when I launched Sentient Creative, I actually tried to like make a Sentient account and like, hey, I should move things over here, Sentient. And I thought it was really cool because I love sci-fi also. And I was, just I was watching Blade Runner, and then I was listening to this electro band, and they had a song that was kind of Blade Runner-esque, and it's called Sentient. I went, ooh, that's good. Like, coming online, like realizing things, like being aware. It fits for a design studio, and I made a logo which I'm very happy with for that for my own agency. And again, this is when I used to do like packaging, retail, other just graphic design stuff originally for Sentient, and I tried moving everything over there, and it did not stick. A lot of people go, what does that even mean? But Teenage Grandpa, like it just kept biting, and people. And then the thing that really made me go like, oh yeah, I have to give up was like I was at a wind up, and someone was like, hey Gramps, and I was like, all right. I was like, that's my name. Like that. Yeah. Like, why am I fighting this? Like people like it. I think it's fun and funny, and I like so. I think I mentioned you just before this, I literally just relaunched teenagegrandpa.com. I don't have a Sentient site anymore. If you try to go there, it should redirect towards that. But it's just all watches on there now and watch related projects. And that's just, as time has gone on, I've been able to drop like, okay, I don't need to do packaging anymore. I don't need to do this. I still do some of it on the side because I do like design, and, I got friends that in various industries that I'll work with from time to time. But the focus now is, very fortunately for me, is most of my day is spent looking at watches. Most of the surfaces in the house are covered in watches, watch components, watch boxes, watch samples, watch drawings, which I think is awesome. I don't know if my partner loves having watches on every surface. I think it's great.
That's a great answer, and I'm stuck on hanky shanky.
Hanky.
Hanky. That's got to show up somewhere on a case back, something. You got to keep that. I want to manifest. Let's manifest that into something.
I still have some. Maybe I'll see if I can dig one up. Do you wear suits?
No. No.
I'll see if I have. I at least have.
Ask Jason if I wear a suit. I just don't.
I haven't really worn. I've kind of gotten out of it now. That just and when I used to wear a suit, I wore them all the time because they are expensive, and I didn't have enough money to like have two completely different wardrobes, so I had to build it up
Yeah, yeah.
over years of working. So like, on the weekends, I'd still be in like a tie and a shirt and with a pochette and whatever, because like, well, that's what I got, right? Like all my shoes, like, I did have like sneakers and shorts and stuff for when I got like, summer, but like outside of that, I was just like, well, my, oh, look here, my partner's heard me in the background. Oh, I can show you something now, which other people can't see, but maybe just, okay, here's one. This is Turbo Pizza.
That's
That's
cool.
great.
You can
Nice.
see all the pizzas, and then this is the original logo, which there it is. Oh, I got to straighten it out because this has been in my
Lime green too. I like that.
yeah, the nice lime green and purple. Oh, these two colors I love, and I still love to bring into my work. I feel like they're still
Yeah, there's some of that
underappreciated.
on the Iceland watch.
This
Yeah.
one is yeah, this one's not this one is a little divisive, but whatever. Here's another one there.
Oh, God.
That looks like a pig on
and
acid, maybe. I don't know. That's crazy.
and then here's Shanky Hanky.
That's awesome.
That's awesome, man.
Yeah,
Wow.
you got
That's
the
got to be
bear
a watch style
claw.
or something.
You got the brass knuckles with the. I think they make those out of sharpened dinner trays. Anyways, I like researched them before I put them together because I was like, if I'm gonna do this, you got to do it right,
Absolutely.
This is the most hardcore pocket square I've ever seen. I love it.
I still
So
wear
funny.
them, but like, yeah, I don't think to like take them out or show anybody. But like every now and then when I do wear a suit, I'm like, oh yeah, put a shaky hanky in the pocket. Why not? I think a couple times I've been wearing the other one with the tasers on it. And people have been like, what's that? I'm like, oh, just something. I don't want to. I don't want to
Yeah,
cause
yeah, it's just-
trouble, get people heated here. But anyways,
So you mentioned sketching album covers and album art when you were a kid. How much of
Yeah.
that still shows up in your work today?
you know, it's I don't get too many chances to do, or as many chances to do illustration. And the last thing I know that people might recognize of my illustration work was I did for the Wind Up Watch Shop. They have this merch line now where it's like these watch characters, and that's very kind of like, old timey Americana cartoon, style. Like it's these anthropomorphized watch characters. Um, so it doesn't really show up in that, like that. Those illustrations I just showed you on the Shanky Hanky, etc. Like it's a lot more in there. I don't really get the opportunity to do that. So I guess in some ways it doesn't. But then in a deeper sense, like I seriously still wake up. I go to have a shower. I put on my little Bluetooth speaker. I listen to heavy metal. I put these giant cans on my ears I'm still wearing right now. I work all day and I'm like listening to heavy metal pretty much all day, and other things too, but mostly heavy metal. I pretty much go to sleep most nights listening to heavy metal for real. Like I have certain albums that really I find soothing. And so it is just ingrained as part of me. And even though it may not show up like, I used to draw like someone who really inspired me when I was young was he didn't do so much album art, more of the merch, and his illustrations also appeared in like Thrasher Mag. But it's a guy known as who goes by Pusshead. I can't remember his real name. Right now it's like Brian something, but Pusshead. And if you've ever seen a Metallica T-shirt, you've probably seen his artwork. He has a very specific style of how he would draw skulls. And I was like the first like kind of like design formula I like decoded, and this is like starting in like grade 4 or 5. I just was like, oh, I got to draw like this guy, and I would just try, and I would notice. And my auntie actually bought me a little anatomical skull so I could study it and like figure out, like, she was like, oh, those are actually very accurate drawings. Here, let me get you one of these, and then you can like get better at it. So like I figured out how to do that, and like I used to draw like Megadeth's mascot, which is a Vic Rattlehead. And I think that's Ed Repka who is the illustrator behind that. And just a lot of these kind of like, it's a very of era art style. And yeah, I just like, I don't know, it's in me. It's just a part of me. It still inspires me heavily and keeps me very motivated. And I'm just so steeped in it that like, yeah, it doesn't come out like maybe a little more in the Thunderclap. I got to put a lightning bolt in there. And when I did the photography for that, I was like, there is no way I'm not doing a hero shot where there's like lightning coming off. And of course, I have to listen to Metallica's Ride the Lightning on
Of
repeat
course.
the
Of
album as
course.
I shoot this because why not? Right. So, yeah, like I wish I guess in some ways, if the opportunity ever arises where I get to like do that more, or go back to those roots and do my other kind of illustration style, I will jump on that. But I just haven't found it an appropriate thing where it fits naturalistically as yet.
Mm.
But perhaps it will come.
The worst part is that last week I was talking to Bob when we were scheduling all this, and I told him I have one of those Warner One baseball caps that
I
you
was
designed.
wondering where I was going to ask. Where is it?
I'm an idiot. I forgot to put it on, and it's upstairs. I can't go get it right now, but I have it. I remember getting it. It was my first year writing for Warner Wound, and it was Christmas time, and they sent us all, the contributors, we all got, cap or something. And I cherished that cap. I wore it a lot.
You have the original one with the
I have
keep
the
on
original.
ticking that we
Keep
can't.
on ticking.
Yeah, we're not going to put that out. Like, I mean, it's not exactly anyone's tagline, but I
Well,
was.
It was.
Well, it's not the full thing. It takes a look
Yeah.
and keep on ticking is the full. So I was like, well, it's not that, but it was keep on trucking was the inspiration. Robert Crumb is another
Yeah.
like
Mm.
graphic novels and things. I used to read those more. I just tend to just read kind of novels now, but I still will read comic books and graphic novels from time to time. But yeah, that was also another thing from my youth that just like stuck around. I don't know if you remember like when Image Comics became a thing, Spawn first came out.
Yeah.
We also had this series. My favorite one was, I don't know if you've ever heard of the Max, but it's like, yeah, I still think of that comic book and it is very inspirational. It is a big purple and yellow character who kills people with his giant middle fingers.
My first graphic novel was The Dark Knight, the original Dark Knight that came out as a graphic novel. And
with
that thing,
who was the illustrator for that? It's the where he's like really big and brutal. It's oh, come on.
it came out in reissues and reissues and reissues and reissues, and it had an amazing joke at the very end when Batman finally catches the Joker, and he's put in the back of the cop car, and he's telling the joke. He says, "There's two crazy guys escaping the asylum, and they make their way up to the roof, and then one guy turns to the other and says, 'I'm going to turn a flashlight on, and you walk across the beam to the other side, and we'll get out that way.' Is what you think I'm crazy? When I get halfway, I'll turn off the flashlight." And then it's just a ha ha ha, and the book ends.
Yeah. That's amazing. Who's the other? That's gonna.
I can't remember, but dude, this is like 35 years ago, 30 years ago. This is.
But that is an epic one. That is one where, like, when that was in the comic book shop, every now and then I'd get to go. I grew up in outside of the city, and every now and then I'd get to go into. We had a comic book shop out in Ajax, but it wasn't as cool as the Silver Snail, which was downtown Toronto. And I remember walking in there once,
Famous.
and that was on there on the shelf, and it was like one of those. There are certain moments where like something just catches you from across the room, and that was one of those. Like that is, I'm pretty sure I've read that as well. It's just been, yeah, like you said, it was so long ago. Like I some of these things have just faded, but yeah, it makes you like, I do reread books and stuff, and I recently reread Mouse by Art Spiegelman. But maybe I got to pick up that Dark Knight. I don't have a copy of that anymore, if I did ever own it myself. But that one was pretty brutal, man. It was really cool stylistically.
So, quick question on design. Back to design for a minute. When you look back at your earlier work, specifically watches, is there anything that you regret, you've changed your mind on, you wish you could redo? Any projects come to mind in that way?
I mean, I try to live without having regrets in anything I do, really. Anything I've ever really put out in the world, to just think like, all right, this might be my only shot, so let's be considerate here. And so I don't know if I have. I will say there was yeah, I guess other than just like, I wish I got, like I told you that conversation, like there's part of me that's like, I wish I could have figured it out sooner. But I think there may have been maybe a little bit in the first collaborate. Is this the first one? The first collaboration, we're very early one, was with Seals Watch Company. We did three models. There was two that launched at the beginning, and then another one that was a little more spaced out. It was like a black variant. So the Model A case and strap already existed, and I bought one, and I reviewed it for a blog to watch when I used to write for them. And yeah, I just was like,
Was that the
you know,
acid green and the what was it called?
yes, there was an acid green one, and then like a burgundy kind of checkerboard one.
I had both of those on a loaner sort of thing for my
Yeah.
YouTube channel back then.
Yeah. I remember that now. Yes, you reviewed them. Yeah, those were super. Like I enjoy. I still have them, and I still get wrist time every now and then. I think there was a part of me though that like, I think for that one maybe there was a few small details that I tried to like cram into that and not that it doesn't look disharmonious to me or anything now, but I feel like at that time when I did that piece, I was like, this might be the only time I get to do this. Like I didn't, I guess I didn't believe in myself being able to continue at that point. There was a bit of like a specter of doubt hanging over me. And maybe it doesn't show up in the design, but I know it was there. When I look at that piece, I just remember being like, oh, I thought this was going to be it. Like I was going to get to do this, and then that would be it. I'd be lucky if I ever got to do another thing.
I still think about the green, specifically the green one. I love that, man. Just the color combination with that particular design. You know, their watches are always just black or maybe silver dials or whatever. Just to see it with that punch of color was really cool.
Yeah. That was nice. Michael, the guy who runs that brand, came to me and in San Francisco to wind up and I think was like, hey, let's let me do something wild. Like I know you like all these watches from the 70s and stuff, and I came on his radar because I reviewed the watch, and we were just chatting. It's like let's do a wild one. Let's look. We were looking at those old, like old Zenith divers, and there's another brand that it's escaping me right now, but these really colorful old divers from the 70s where there's like checkerboards on the bezel, and there's a lot. Like there's a lot to them, and we're like,
yeah,
like can we do that? Can we make something that has like let's go overboard a little bit, like maximal, like on purpose.
Yeah.
So that was kind of the idea behind those, and they are like they do have like a visual ka-chunk still when you look at them. They do. That green, I had to make a swatch for that. I had to go and find a pigment, paint it on card, cut it out, and send it to the suppliers because they couldn't get it bright enough. And the Pantone book actually doesn't have a neon that's neon enough for me. And I knew that they could make a more neon. So I was like, oh, like this. And I like found this paint. I sprayed it on a thing and cut swatches and sent it to the suppliers. And then they're like, oh, like that? Oh, you sure? Like, yeah.
That's awesome, man.
Yeah, I get that a lot, I'll say. And a lot of the designs I've done over the years for anything, there's always some moment where, sure. But yeah, that's kind of what you got to do sometimes. I think you just got to believe and be like, all right, like no one's doing this. It's you gotta try to be different. Like I don't want to be. I try to just my number one goal is to bring joy. That's my number one goal. Like anything I make, if I'm going to put anything into the world, I would like it to be like someone will see it and be like, oh, that's cool. It makes me, brings me a little bit of happiness. These are objects, it's not it's not your family or friends or anything, but like you're going to put anything out there, it should be something that I think just has an air of positivity to it. So that's what I try to do.
Amazing.
And yeah, maybe I didn't think I could do it back in the day, but oh well.
So currently, Matt, with your design projects, when you approach your design work, particularly for watch projects, what are some of the important elements that you incorporate into your early design process to ensure the design language is on point with the brand's goals and also what you want to create for them?
Yeah, that's an excellent question. So I do have a process which actually started, pre-watches even, like, back in the day at agency level, you get more responsibility as time goes on slowly. But I did have a point where I kind of was like, I had a moment in my really early career, the first studio I worked at full time was, there was a real like immediately into the fire moment where, so there was basically, this is really what got me into like kind of more industrial design and things in 3D. So there was a client that came, remember HMV? his
Yeah.
master's voice, the big, CD giant that everyone used to go to. And
Yeah.
yeah, they wanted to get it to mobile phones. And this is back when phones still flipped open and they all looked completely different. And, the Motorola Razor was all, like, ooh. So this is like ages ago. And they wanted to get into that. And this project kind of, I guess, came into the studio where I was working. And I think there was maybe a bit of like, it was kind of doomed. You could tell like some of the business plan from this. So I think some of the seniors were like, I don't want to really do this, but we do want their money. We do want to take the job. So me and another kind of junior person were like, you guys can take it, figure it out. And so we took and figured out, I believe it won a retail design award, even though the brand was and the business plan did fail. It was doomed. It was called To Go or something, the mobile, but we made these kiosks. And anyways, when I did that, I had to make up a process of like, how do I solve this problem? Because I'm still learning, and I had to. So I came across some advice somewhere. It was just like, ask as many questions up front as you can, like define the goal. That was the thing. Make sure the goal is really clear. Don't try to like write a prescription, because that's what kind of think a lot of designers do. They hear a problem, you immediately try to figure out what's the prescription. My process is just still to this day, ask more questions, and then the answer will kind of reveal itself. So Prevail, which was a brand I built for Hassan Madras. He is a JAG lawyer for the U.S. Air Force, and he is, great guy. He came to me and said, "Look, I want to raise money for veterans' health, and I want to do it with a watch. Outside of that, I don't know what it needs to be." He had an idea that it wanted to be affordable and it wanted to be like kind of like tough, like a G-Shock, so that people in the service could afford to buy it, number one, and then it would be durable. They wouldn't break if you actually used it for some extreme activities. And so I was like, I don't know what else to do with it. So with that, we sat down, I learned about him and his background and what got him into that. And so for any project, I'll try to learn what's the goal that you really want to hit. Like, what's the target? So for him, again, I'll just use this as an analog for the whole thing because I think this will help illustrate it out. But he was like, okay, it's got to be accessible. It's got to be this. And then we were talking and he was kind of like, there's something about how other military watches are done. Like, I don't know. And we kind of, and I glommed onto that and I went, okay, like what is it about that? Let me see if I can articulate it for him. So I went and I looked really deep at other companies, and there's some companies that see military style watches, and there's a lot of marketing where there's like a guy in a trench with a rifle covered in grease paint, and there's people in parachutes or this, or it's like there's a glorification perhaps elements to it. So I took some screenshots, looked at it, and brought it back to him. I was like, how does this make you feel? He was like, well, like people who've done this, these images aren't really, you don't really want to relive this, right? And plus the watch is, $5,000 that they're selling, and no one can afford that. So it just kind of seems off. I'm like, okay, that's going to define the goal. We need to be positive. We need to think about this differently from the ground up. Everything we do in this project has to be new. We're not going to go and be like, talking about battles from the past and naming anything after that. We're not going to, it's about the people and the camaraderie and their well-being. Because I said, you said yourself, you want to raise money for veterans' health. It's about the positivity in the community. So how do we do that? And so that right off the bat eliminates all the things that watch could possibly be. Like I did the brand name and all that. We did an exploration exercise to come up with what should the name of the brand be, and then what does the logo look like. So you build on this thing, creating like a kind of like a breadcrumb trail, right? So if you choose to follow the breadcrumbs all the way back, you'll be able to follow them, number one, and you'll learn things about the brand and the watch and the story as you go. And it should be there, should you choose to. So anyways, back to the watch itself. By the time we got to that stage, we're like, okay, so this is Prevail. The watch is going to be we're going to call it like something like the Onward, and it's got to be futuristic. Like it has to be, right? Because we're talking about looking towards a better, brighter future. We're talking about overcoming, like the name Prevail also comes from the veterans' health angle, where it was like, a challenge has been presented to you. Either you're injured physically or you have PTSD or whatever it is, you have to overcome it. And we're going to be there for you. You're going to prevail, right? So that's that component of it. The logo's got the double chevron as the A. So that's like when you look at the dial, it's also pointing in the direction when you're looking at your watch, like move, keep going forward, keep on moving. And so we're like, yeah, we're looking to the future and all of these things. We're looking ahead with our eyes open. So we're going to do this. So then, we came up with even the design language. We realized it can't look like weaponry. It has to look like, it can look tactical, but it can't look. So then we were looking like, okay, well, let's look at tactical. There's like camping gear is kind of tactical. There's compasses. There's like all this EDC stuff that people have that is useful to them, and like so we just looked at that and I kind of absorbed like what are the cues on those things and how do they communicate their toughness? Well, they communicate their toughness through being purely functional, right? So if you look at the Prevail watch, it's the one that is most obvious on is the tactical version, and that's the one that has kind of like the turreted crown on it, right? But that both crowns, they're actually raised above the crystal so that you can't bang it on anything and have the crystal poking out. It's meant to protect it. So there's just a purely functional reason behind that. But by addressing that, you end up with this thing that looks functional, like, oh, it's got to be grippy, like when you hold it, and so then it's got the grips on the side and the back is grippy. Well, it can't have spring bars because people are going to be banging this thing around. So okay, so it's fixed lug. Like the thing kind of designs itself. If you kind of listen to the briefing you create for yourself at the beginning, the answers just kind of illuminate as it's very exploratory, and I love it. Like, this one of the things I love the most about doing any design project is how much I get to learn about things I didn't otherwise know beforehand, because like some of the things now that I think of so clearly about military watches and how the military is used as marketing, and very like there's just things I would have never considered from perspectives I would have never considered before. Not out of trying to be like malicious or anything. You don't think about these things if you're not in them, right? So I'm very lucky that I get to learn these things and kind of like, I feel like every project I do, I grow a little bit too, from it. So anyways, that's my very long answer.
I love it though. I love it.
That's not good. Now I want a Prevail watch.
I know. I want one too now.
So you still think starting small and tactical is the best path to inspiring watch designers?
Like start like smaller scale projects, you mean?
Yeah. And purposeful.
Yeah, I think that's it. I mean, I think purpose is a big thing right now in the world. So I would say for today's day and age, purpose is huge. Like, I feel like we're living in an era where, I'm not trying to sound too deep about this, but this is something I think about and I see in the design world. People are looking for a purpose. Like, we're living in a time where, this is how these like weird manosphere guys get traction. It's because there's young guys out there and they're looking for a purpose. And the same things happen, there's the same things with, young women and girls. Like, they're looking for a purpose and a place of belonging. And there's obstacles out there. And I feel like right now we're really in a place where people want to have that. Why am I doing anything? Why? And so I think thinking about that as a designer, if you're going to make a watch, having a purpose, other than just making a thing, that thing should serve a purpose. Like, and that purpose could be like even a secondary, like raising money for veterans health. That's really the purpose of that watch ultimately. I mean, the watch serves a purpose as a functional object, but the goal is still very much like, we're going to raise money for this and raise awareness and change this narrative. That's the goal. So yeah, any designer out there, if you're going to make anything, you're inspired to build a thing, like, just take a moment and say like, well, why am I doing this? Because you could probably still design a very attractive piece and have it do well. But I think even from other designers I appreciate, I'm spoken to, when you have that why behind it, those do just better, right? And even just looking at like big brands, like, I mean, Nike has really done well with their why for, they have a saying where it's like, if you have a body, you're an athlete, right? So like you're of course, doing track and field, you're an athlete. But then they also look at it as like, you're like, a delivery bike messenger in the city, or you work in a bunch of studios, you do this, you're also doing kind of athletic stuff. You're running around, you're doing all this, you're working, you're on your feet all day. Like, you're an athlete. The reason we exist is to support people in their, athletic or like physical endeavors. And, it really does translate into their things. Like, it's not top level, like they don't say that, but it just is there, right? And that thinking is there. And I think that's one of the reasons why they're like still such a huge, success as a brand. You know, maybe they've, I don't know, maybe they're not as cool today as they were maybe a couple of years ago. I don't know how that sneaker culture. I've kind of gotten out of that, but you know, I think yeah, it's just think of the reason, and even for yourself, like what can you do that makes this thing positive? You know, like just I always try to. I said this earlier, but like what are positive attributes you can build on? Like, yes, okay, I'll go use Prevail again because we just spoke about it, but like, it wasn't enough for us to say this can't be X. Forget about that. You know, it's like when you hear a politician speak and they say, "Hey, so and so, the other guy stinks. He's a real crook." It's like, well, what are you gonna do, man? Like, give me
Yeah.
your thing. You could say the other guy stinks all day and be pointing fingers back at each other, but like, ultimately, I think we're in an era now where people are like, what's the purpose for me? Like, why do I need to engage with this? How are you gonna support me in my endeavors? And I think
Mhm.
that's a nice piece to think about for any designer, really.
Yeah, and by the way, you can switch from Prevail and to use Isotope as examples if you want to. I'm just saying.
Yeah.
You can if
Sorry.
you want to. It's just the
I'm
door's
sorry.
open.
I'm sorry. I just
Smooth plunge.
look.
It's a smooth plunge.
I just used that one because I built the brand from scratch for that one. So okay. But Isotope, I will use that. Like, so for this, like, you know, the purpose of this one,
Oh God, you're killing me.
the purpose of this one was really, you know, like, okay, it's a telemeter, yes, and you can measure, you know, how far away lightning strikes are, say, but I think another part of this too was just like it's got to be really fun. Like it
Yeah.
has to be fun. There is lube on the case back, and Jose and I were like, that is pointless. Like it's not going to charge in the sale. You have to take it off and charge it with a light as a separate endeavor. But man, is that fun? So
Yeah.
of course it makes for the briefing of what we wanted to do here is like there's this cool functional watch that already exists. Like the moonshot already existed. So it's like, how do we take this? And you know, he wanted to make it feel a little brutal and then but also make it fun. So how do you mesh those two worlds, kind of like a stern brutality and then like this kind of fun? Well, you know, like I looked at pictures of lightning and I noticed that like, oh, the lightning in a lot of these photos, it looks kind of purple. You know, when you look at a lightning strike in a photograph, that's what it looks like. Well, purple's got to be the color now because that just is going to help make that association in your brain. You know, I also did the packaging for Isotope prior to doing the moonshot, and that he's got the new cork box and it's got the sleeve and all that. And we really considered like, what's the experience going to be like for someone opening it? But then even before that, let's imagine like, and from my end, I was like, I'm going to imagine the angriest delivery driver with your precious watch and make sure that this thing gets to you okay, right? Like here's a precious, delicate thing. So there's an outer box. It's a double corrugate that's absolutely plain and no one would ever look at it for anything. And that's the point. Like we thought about making, we could make a cool outer box, but no, this is an angry, in my head. I don't know if I voiced this to Jose, but I was thinking like, no, this is a disgruntled UPS worker has this bar. Like if he thinks there's value in there, he's going to shred it open and be like, well, I'm going to inspect this. And hey, it's a watch. Okay, so it's going to look like nothing from the outside. But then you open it, and there's also these two padding pieces that go on the top and bottom that's like this thick corrugate. And the first one has, you know, it has the, like a little expression on there. It's like a fragile symbol, but it's like, you know, handle with care, wear with joy, you know, is in this little thing. So you lift that, and now practical sense, the watch is protected, but that's also why there's the sleeve holds the box together. You have the next level, then you have the cork. Like I was just thinking, like make this bomb proof, like because at the end of the day, if that guy decides to stomp on the box because he's mad, you know, like it's only going to get so deep. And your watch, the package may look, you know, completely dickered, for lack of a better term, by the time it gets to you with this disgruntled imaginary driver, but the watch will still be inside ticking, and then you'll be less upset about that. You really want the watch at the end of the day. So I really did think this through of like, yeah, layers on layers on layers. I don't care if this is overkill. It's a precious little horological egg in there, and I need to make sure that, you know, doesn't get bit in half by a
You know what? You touched right into my next question. Is how do you walk the line between playful and technical? How do you balance creativity with function? And I think you mentioned that, you know, the joy, it has to serve a purpose. It has to do a job.
Yeah.
telemeter, teletime, chronograph, but you want it to be joyful and playful, but you don't want that to over, you know, shadow the functionality. So how do you handle that?
Yeah. I mean, yeah, you're correct. There is a balance. Um, I think though, you know, in a way, one thing that ends up being playful, like a thing I'm really inspired by. So I used to work in a metal shop as a teenager. That was my summertime job. And a lot of the machines there had a lot of signs on them, like tension, and the knob would say tension and have an arrow on it, or like this. And a lot of things were labeled, and things that didn't come labeled on the machine itself. The guy whose shop I worked in, he would sometimes label them himself. And so everything is very, they don't want you tearing your thumb off. So they make sure that kick press and everything is all the functionality in the lathe very clearly labeled. And when you look at some of the things I've done, like I did the workhorse for Vero, and I think that's falls into the category of being very fun. But like everything is labeled, right? And I think it is fun. Sometimes practicality, we don't realize that is fun. Like having everything be labeled, all the switches be labeled, is kind of fun, and it is kind of playful, but it's also very practical. So it's kind of a twofer, like. And I think this is the thing with a lot of these things is the clearer, what's the best way I can put this? The clearer the functionality is, the less you're going to have to think about using it. And therefore, that's going to be a better experience for you. The clearer the functionality, the better the experience. And yeah, again, as I said earlier, I'm an oaf. Like I bang my watches on door frames all the time and stuff. So I'm like, how do I make this so that like I don't, one, the thing is durable, but two, like you're going to be able to feel free to like, I'm not afraid to wear any of the watches I design. I'll put them on and just be like, whatever, I'm going out in my big flail and limb life that I lead. And, I don't have to worry about this. So I think that's it. And just, there is a balance from a very technical side too, where I guess like, I don't think about ornamentation. I try to just think of like, what does this communicate, right? So like if you look at the second hand on this Thunderclap chronograph, actually if you look at the base too, and if you were to look at lightning rod construction, if you looked at the very base where the post is for the second center, it's got these four things. Well, that's what a lightning rod looks like. So it's actually a lightning rod there, but it's also communicating to you what already exists and this already existed on the moonshot, is Jose has similar thinking to me where it says like, play, pause, and then reset on the underside of the pushers. So that if you just pick this up anywhere, you could look at it and go like, oh, okay, I understand how that works. Play, pause, reset. Well, this is for timing the lightning strike, and you start when you see the event, which is the strike. So it also works as part of this, like, here's the lightning timer. It's this one. It's only going to be in the, and you're not going to need the subdials for that. The lightning strike is, if you're using the subdials, it's not, you're timing some other event. So having it be there and not just a lightning bolt on the dial or something makes sense to me. But you can still have fun with it. Like, why does it have to be boring? Like, you can communicate things through visual semiotics. Like, hey, this is a lightning bolt. Like, it makes sense on a level that you'll go like, oh yeah, I kind of know what this is for, but it still looks fun. So that's it. I wouldn't just put, I'm very hesitant if someone was to just be like, oh, just put this, I want a 4-leaf clover on there. Well, I just like 4-leaf clovers. Like that makes, like, I don't know if I could do that. I feel like I would shut down if I try to like get into the layout software and just put needless decoration. Like I would like glitch out. Like I don't know if I could do it, but I think fortunately that has never happened to me, and everyone I work with is super cool, and really like, yeah, the clients I've got and people I've worked with in the past is people who want to do that, be part of that collaborative process and figure out the briefing and explore. And I'm totally fine to have someone point out, like when I present a design, sometimes someone goes like, oh, this has happened, where it's like, this has missed the mark. The first Smoky Bear watch I presented to Vero, it was just like, and it was what we discussed, but he was like, this doesn't work. There's something about it. I'm not feeling it. And we couldn't figure it out either. Cause I kind of like, they looked nice, but I was like, yeah, what is it? And then, so we just took a break And then we started looking at old Smoky memorabilia, and I came across this like wind up tin Jeep, and it came in this really fun box, and I was like, oh, that's cool. And then I was like, well, it looks so that there's something there, okay. And I'm looking at the paintings. I was already looking at those, and I was like, okay, well, we've redesigned, like I have a custom Smoky head that I designed, which is going to go in the U.S. Forest Service Smoky archive of graphic elements, which is pretty cool. But I did that new visage of Smoky for that, and then you go, okay. And then I was talking to Chris, the owner of Vero, and he was like, oh, we're talking about the dates. 1964 is when they gave Smoky a postal address, and people could start to send him fan mail. And then we're talking about that in the fan club, and I'm looking at this painting, and then we're like, that's it. This has to be, like, if you're the fan club and you get to work with Smoky, he's going to give you this watch, and it has to be, like, it doesn't need to be a different kind of watch. It's going to have to be kind of traditional, but there's going to be elements on there that make it. And we're like, well, let's think about it like this. Smoky is a bear. So that watch actually has a very large protruding crown for the reason that if you had bear hands, you're going to need, like, Smoky himself would need a very large protruding crown with his big furry hands to get in there. And like, it's so, but like once we started thinking about it like that, and then we're like, yeah, this is like a fan club thing, and you're getting it. And then we looked at that toy and how it was packaged, and that's part of the, like, everything just like, and then everything all of a sudden aligned. And I was like, okay, like in this instance, making a kind of very traditional field watch makes sense, because it's like one of those things you would have gotten back in the day, like a Smoky fan club thing. It wouldn't be like something like the Workhorse. It would be like the standard thing, but with these twists and Easter eggs in it. So that's what we did, and then it just felt right, and that's been a huge success. So like everyone's happy with that, and yeah, they're still making them, and we're making colorways still, and it's that was I love Smoky Bear, so that was like a huge feather in the cap for me to do that project as well. Very lucky.
I love Smoky Bear. I remember seeing a lot of commercials on television growing up, and Smoky the Bear was a big part of that. So very, very prominent image.
Yeah, only you can help prevent forest fires.
Absolutely.
That's right. That's right. Well, I was looking at, I'd say this, I was looking at like all the historic posters in the archive and all the things. I was just like, man, I love Smoky, as I've already said, but I'm just like, some of the posters that they had to be, it's like, please don't burn garbage. Like, I'm just what is wrong with people? You need a giant bear to tell you not to burn garbage? Anyways.
We're talking about Americans. You have to tell them these things.
Different times too. So let me ask you, Matt. Is from your perspective, what is something that you would like to see done differently in the horology industry in the context of the role and the impact that designers have within the horology space?
Oh, I 100% have an answer for you for that. And this is my number one thing is, and something that I've tried to avoid. I want brands to talk about who designed their pieces. Like a lot of brands keep like the design of whatever piece comes out, it's white label. And I know people that design watches for various companies and brands, and they're literally not allowed to say I was a part of this. And I just think, why? Like there's a weird air of fragility that reads to me as like, well, we can't let anyone know. Like people need to think that these just the parts magically assembled themselves one night on a Swiss gnomes came out and built this, like little Keebler elves overnight. And it's just a mystery, like how we came up with this. Like, no, there's a person behind that. And like, one person who also avoided this is like the one person we could all name. If I say Gerald Genta to you, like you're going to go, oh yeah, you're going to go the Nautilus and this. And then you look at like, the Royal Oak and the Nautilus, and you can see the hands are the same, and there's little elements and kind of visual logic that connects a lot of these pieces. Even in like things that are like quite different, like you look at, oh, well, the polar router is so different, but then you look at, like some of the Omegas you did, and you're like, oh, well, that connects to that. So like you can see there's a logic that has spread throughout these, and we know who it is, and he's super celebrated. But I think one of the reasons, like not to, no shade to him, one of the reasons why he is the most celebrated watch designer is because we know he designed them. And I am a big fan of this Omega watch that is the people call it the Teutonic Speedmaster. It's from the 80s. It's very weird. It's got an integrated bracelet. A lot of people don't like it at all. They think it's hideous. It's kind of like the unwanted stepchild watch of the brand. And but I think they're really cool. and I had written to them, and even other people associated with the brand just try to be like, who designed this? I would love to know, like, who is behind this. And there's just no information. They don't want to tell me. They're like, it was just, we don't disclose. I can't remember what they gave me, but it was something like, we're not going to tell you, basically. And I was like, okay. And I just think that's kind of absurd. We should celebrate the creative people that make these things. And if anything, it's a bonus. People will take interest in this. We can only talk about, like, for me in watches, I love watches. I can only talk about reference specs for so long until my eyes glaze over and I'm like, dude, like, it's much more interesting to me. Like, I have this one watch. It's by a dive equipment company. It's a Mares, if I'm pronouncing that well. And then, of course, right now her name is Julia Massini. Anyways, it's this Italian female designer. Her name is on the back of this watch, and I was able to, like, look her up and say, like, oh, like, she kind of was like this car designer. She worked with Giorgetti Giugiaro, and, like, had this career that, again, as a female, especially in that era, where she was kind of like, I think some people took some credit for her work, to be honest, and her name was kind of like pushed down, and you couldn't really find too much out about her. And I thought, well, what a shame. Like, I would love to know more about this designer who made this watch that is not popular. Like, if you look this up, I think it's like a Mares automatic watch, and it's this composite material, and it's this weird. It's actually from, like, the late '90s, early 2000s. It looks very '80s, but, like, it's a very strange piece. It was very unique, and I was just captured by it. It was very hard for me to find one too. But I ended up getting my grubby little paws on one, and I have it. And yeah, I just think it's a shame that we don't know these things. And what are you like? Why are we trying to hide that? It's like,
It's just the way the industry is.
that should be celebrated.
No, it's how the industry is for years. People and companies.
We met one of the Longines designers
Yeah.
by accident. Actually, maybe it's better if you tell the story, Mark.
Yeah. But just go back to the industry just 2 seconds. That for years, companies would create caliber names for movements and watches. Everybody's using the same caliber.
Yeah.
But it was the caliber 137643, caliber 628. It's
Yeah.
all on that at 2824.
Yeah.
And the designers, I mean, Gerald Genta is celebrated for a reason, yes, but he was prolific. He did so many watches for so many companies and, a lot of failures. I mean, I've got a book of his own designs, and there's so many crappers in this book. It's not even funny. But,
Yeah.
you hit just a couple home runs, but like you said, he's famous because he's known, he's out there. And I believe you're right. I mean, we know Erebus, our friends in Australia, have a bunch of live dive watches and Gata style watches that they work with a specific designer. They told us, but they never mentioned his name. It's not shared. It's definitely not Jody or his partner who designed those watches. And I
Yeah.
think it's not fair. The designer should be lauded. Now, Bob mentions Alexandre Voirin, who was the head designer at Longines for a decade, and no one heard of him.
Yeah.
But he designed the Spirit line. He designed the Heritage line. He designed the Legend Diver, and won the GPHD for the design of the Big Eye.
Yeah. Yeah.
And when he left the company, now he's got his own thing called Carlang and is doing pretty well with it. And good for him. He is a very good designer. And yeah, let's celebrate designers. I agree.
Yeah. There's no, I don't know what the shame point is, why they would want to suppress this. It
They
seems,
want people to think it's all the brand. It's all about the brand, not about people making them, not the people. We don't know the names of the watchmakers either. Come up, unless it's Max Booster or whoever. So these huge Voutilainen people or whatever. We don't know who the people are making the modules for certain watches. The the
Yeah.
movements. It's secretive. They want it all to be about the brand. That's it.
I just feel like the brand feels, when that, I get the thinking you're just trying to make the brand look like this monolithic thing.
Yes.
But again, like I said, to me, it speaks of a little bit of fragility. Like, it just doesn't seem super confident, and it doesn't seem like,
Well, that's Swiss.
and it just doesn't seem like where's the depth? Like, it's also shallow. Like, the
Oh,
brand,
that's the
it's
Swiss
this
brand.
big monolithic, it's like the old saloons where they just had like a front on them, right? And they're all just like wooden shacks off the back when in their old settler days. Like, that's how it feels to me. But then
That's
if
why
you,
they call them maisons.
Yeah, yeah,
That's
yeah,
what it is. And oftentimes, I don't know if you remember, but the olden days, the watch companies just have you would see the in a relief just the shape of the building, and it'll be written Cartier on top or something. It's all about the brand and the positioning of the brand and the strength of the brand.
yeah.
People inside it doesn't matter for to them, and they're very secretive, and they don't share anything.
I think if you did share things like that, it would be
I agree.
good. I remember actually a brand who does do this, Giraud Perregaux. They used to highlight some of the watchmakers even, and they did this really cool campaign where it's like one of them is like really into horse riding, so it was like her and her horse and wearing a watch, and then the other guy's a heavy metal guitarist, so it was him with this cool axe with one of the watch he works on, and I was like, this is brilliant. Like,
Yeah,
let's do
IWC has
more
done
of
a couple of
this.
those before too. Yeah,
Yeah,
agreed. Yeah, there should
yeah,
be more of that.
yeah,
So,
yeah.
what's apart from not sharing designer information, what are the biggest crimes against watch design in your eyes today?
Crimes against watch design.
Clovers on dials?
Oh, well, if there's a reason, then you have my
No, St. Patrick's Day watch.
blessing is there. I think yeah, purpose is again. I'm going to go back to that. I have seen, okay, this might drop whatever. I got to just say there was this Rolex that came out years ago where it's they did a few colorful ones, right? And one had the like dots
Balloons.
all on it, right?
Celebration model, whatever.
Yeah, and then one of them has a puzzle on the dial and then a bunch of emojis.
Mhm.
And to me, that made and still makes no sense. There's no connection between those things. There's nothing that's natural. I think they were just like, this is colorful and people like emojis. And they put those two things together and you end up with like, and I have brought some of these things up at, collector meetups. And then every once in a while, there's someone sitting in the corner hearing me say these things, fuming at my heresy. And eventually they go, how dare you? And, or like, like when I used to do refining time and I would like redo, like during the pandemic, I was just bored. So I was like redesigning some watches. That's actually a regret. I wish I thought of that earlier in the pandemic because I thought of it very late. And then shortly after I got that going, stuff was starting to open back up and I had to resume regular work and I couldn't keep doing the refining time series
I
on
was
Instagram.
enjoying those actually. Those were a lot of fun, man.
They were a lot of fun to make, but they took a lot of time because I really did sit with each thing and try to think it through and be like, okay, I needed to keep it looking like it would be this watch, but like, what if I fixed the typography? I, removed the bastardized type and I made this more legible. I gave things more breathing room. I rethought X, Y, and Z. And so even though they look simple, those posts took a long time for me to do. And a lot of it was just thinky time. Uh, but yeah, like, people get upset about, in those, when I was doing that, they'd be, oh, how dare you say this, this Breitling. Breitling's a huge brand and you're just a nobody. Yeah, I am a nobody, but, I have eyeballs. Like as a nobody, I do have eyeballs and I can see good enough to see that this is not done well. And, I think, yeah, just purpose again. Like, what is the reason that like, there's no, I just see a thing that exists because they could make money on it, right? Like, oh, we know people will buy this, and here it is. So that's I guess the biggest crime. Type, I will say, I'm very happy to say that I have seen far less crimes against typography in the watch world over the last while, and even like brands that were regularly guilty of some heinous acts of typographic stretching, squishing, terrible kerning, typeface it like mismatched font selection. They have reined it in. A lot of people have really tightened that. So I don't know like what's gotten out into the atmosphere, but I'm very happy to see that. And there's a couple brands like that do it really well. One that has its own unique face on its pieces. I don't know. Again, a lot of these I just say to myself, so I hope my pronunciation is good. I think it's Ferdinand Vertut,
Yep.
and they do these. Yeah, they have some really nice type, and they have a really cool face they use and numerals and everything matches. And I find their type to be like, boom. I'm always happy to see when they do something. I'm like, ooh, that's crisp, and all the letter spacing is just so there are good things, but yeah,
You mentioned Breitling before, and also you mentioned about labeling functions and so forth on a watch. And I don't remember 2001 was that 25 years ago. I had gotten a Navitimer 50th anniversary to review for the magazine I was writing for, and it was their highfalutin on bracelet, 7 link bracelet, this beautiful watch, and they had labeled right on top of the date the word date. Now this is a watch that's already very busy with a bunch of slide rules and stuff. That was so stupid.
That is a redundancy for no. That is
Higher reason.
sometimes redundancy is good. You know,
Nah, this
like
was stupid.
it's sometimes a redundancy, and like watches. Let's say when they are used professionally, they're often a redundant system in case your
Yep.
dive computer dies. You have something that's that's there to help you if should such a necessity arise. Um, but yeah, like those kind of redundancies are crazy making, where it's like it's a hat on a hat. Like
Exactly.
I try to like avoid in anything I've done. Like I would try to avoid. Like I did the so a blog to watch. Their brand that they still use to this day. I redid that and I relaunched the site they're using now. Even was my old designer Sean. She actually designed that site. I was involved in as well, but she really took the charge on that. And the previous relaunch, so like it went from a blog to read to a blog
Yeah.
to watch.
Yeah.
And
I
the
remember that.
original relaunch of a blog to watch, it was bad. Like the site was bad, and they kind of knew it was not working out. And they're like, but we don't know what to do, right? And the developer was really Kristen was her name, I believe, and she was good at developing, which wasn't a designer, self-admittedly. So she's like, I don't know, I just made the site. It's efficient from a code point, but like it's just not working, and we're not getting it. So we looked at it, and I helped them figure out how to redo it, and I rebranded them. And one of the things was, no, in the logo, there's nothing there's no gears, there's no hands, there's no nothing. And originally he was like, well, I have gears and everything because people are going to know. I said, I think people are going to know when they come to your website. It's called the blog to watch, and it's just pictures of watches. Like, there's a confidence there when you can just say, like, I don't need to re-up on that, right? And I can just show, like, okay, like, it's going to be obvious what the functionality. So that's a great point. Like, is the functionality of this obvious? If yes, then you don't need to say. If the functionality isn't obvious, like then maybe you go like, because pushers don't always work the same. Sometimes start, stop, and reset, or it's a different combination, or one that's the other way around. And labeling that makes a lot of sense to me. But yeah, labeling date under date, and on a watch that's full of stuff, you're just trying to put bits in there, man. You're just trying to put little bits, because some people think, oh, more bits looks technical.
Yeah.
Makes blood want to squirt out of my nose. Like,
yeah. Well, you got a slide rule and you got miles per hour. Fine's got to be labeled. You've got, tachometer, blah, blah, blah. If you've forgotten that that's the date, then you got a much bigger problem than.
There is a larger problem.
Yeah.
Sorry, what were you going to say, Chase?
We also want to know the designers behind the watches so we can shame the ones that are those.
Maybe that's why they hide. Breitling's like, we have to have the word date. No, please, I don't want it on there. But you have to put it. Damn, don't know when I did this.
Some of those things, I will tell you, some of the watches that I did the little like analogy on back during the pandemic, or my little Refining Time Instagram series, how many of them used one of the first free fonts that is from the drop-down menu installed by default on your computer? How many of those were used was crazy to me. And they're not even good for the scale they're made at. Like, they're not super legible at that scale. They're not like, pay a designer. Like, it just looks to me like someone's like, we don't need a designer to do this. We got desktop publishing now. Hey, look, this, there's a Patek Philippe that's got this garbage Microsoft script face on it, and it's the world timer, so it's everywhere, and they've done it. First off, don't do it in all caps. So it's all caps in the script. It's completely illegible. It's stretched to all hell. It's a basic system. And when I pointed this out, I swear to you, people got mad at me, and they're like, well,
of course
they know what they're doing. And I'm like, they ripped you off. Like, that's what I would be saying. I got ripped off. You guys went into the drop-down menu and, yeah, that script one in Microsoft Word is fine. Make it fit. There you go. Yeah. Job done. Like, $80,000, whatever, $180,000, please. Like, what? Like, that is disrespectful.
So when you go into a project, how often does the product actually match the original vision? How often do compromises kind of creep in along the way?
Yeah, I'll say I am very happy to say even outside of watches, I have a very high rate of showing the rendering and showing the outcome and them being really similar.
Mhm.
If I was to show you, I'm sorry, I have to bring up Prevail again, but it's just
Mhm.
if I showed you their original, the original concept drawing and what was made, like the original one, you would go, yeah, those are the same.
Mhm.
They're not, however, because one of the things was with that case geometry, we wanted to design it for like one of the reasons it's the shape it is for stability on the wrist, right? And when we got the first 3D printed prototypes, the lugs stuck out too far, and there was a lot of refining. It took quite a few rounds of 3D printed prototypes to get the shape where it actually did the thing we wanted.
Mhm.
Now, aesthetically, you look at my original concept and you look at that and you go, they are the same. So the compromises we had to make there were on, okay, well, the lugs actually can't be this lug. They'll have to move them in. And actually, that makes the dial has to be a bit smaller, but it's worth it. At the end of the day, it is the spirit of that concept
Mhm.
is intact end to end. I think the most I've ever had to compromise was I did a day date. I laid out the whole wheel with custom type for this project, and then the manufacturer was having issues and da da da. And after all this back and forth, and we removed the day and the date. So like, and that was like a lot of the work was putting together the day and the date wheel for this and having a cool color combo even on the type that reveal through the dial, and we had to remove it. And but still, the functionality and spirit of that watch is still intact, and the main key points that were like, the color was a big part of that project, and some of the other things, it was still intact. So when it came out at the end, you're still like, okay, the intent and the feel and the general functionality is there. But that was the biggest compromise I think I've fortunately ever had to make. And yeah, like I learned early on from another watch designer who does like white label work for people. He had told me, um, you know, and he does movements too. Like he's much more technically savvy than I am.
Mhm.
He does the movements and everything. He can work on modules. And he had said to me, I put all this work into engineering this module and designing it, and then it gets sent to the factory to get made, and the factory redesigns it from the ground up. And he's like, originally I would get really upset with that because I'd be like, hey, I've already figured this out for you. But then they would remind him, well, we're not doing this to be rude, but we're going to be the ones making it. And we want to re-look at it from the ground up and make it in a way that we know, A, we can manufacture it well, because we know how things are going to be made. And, da, da, da. And maybe you've made a component that would work. In our factory, we like to make springs like this. And that spring that you've designed, actually, there's all this minutia that runs in there. So at the end of the day, so it was kind of freeing because he was like, Matt, like just like the concept and the spirit of it is good to go forward with when you take it in, and then let the engineers like work with the engineers at the factory and have them figure those things out, because even if you figured them all out, they're going to redo it. They're good because they're the way they machine things and the way they make things, they're gonna want to redo it and make sure that they understand it also. So there are functional differences sometimes when I'm discussing something and we think like, oh yes, this needs to have like a smooth action on the crown, this internal bezel, it's got to be smooth, and we have to have this, da, da, da. And sometimes those things come out exactly as we want. Like with the workhorse, it was like, yeah, smooth action, the crown pops out after you unscrew it, all of those things happened, and it was made like that. Another project for Vero, which is the tide tracker, um, using that thing, we found that having 120 clicks on there, the factory's like, no, try it with clicks, because we're putting it together, and I think you're going to need clicks. We're going to put 100, and it just makes sense for the setting of that and the feel of it to like actually use it.
Mhm.
Having 100 for whatever reason, it's not what we envisioned for that, but it was just no, that works. That's the right way forward to do this. And I'm not too precious about that. I thought it was going to be smooth motion, but then I'm like, no, it functionally feels tactically logical. So yeah, very fortunate that I haven't had to like flip something completely around.
Yeah.
I've certainly had concepts that I thought were the coolest one rejected, and we go with maybe the safer one, or go into a second round and those things, and I revise things. But again, everyone I work with is like, we're all on the same page, and I get to pick and choose my clients a little bit, and there have been people that they're like, no, I just want you to do what I say. And I'm like, well, I can't work with you. Like it's just you're going to be upset with me, and I'm going to be like, why do this? Like I've tried to do that in the past, and it just, even if the job gets done, you go, okay, we're just like, I gotta, what is this worth? Some people, maybe that's the way they want to work, and they'll find the right fit for them, a designer who's like, I just want to be told what to do and just to do it. Like there's someone out there for you to do that. It ain't me. So I'm fortunate that, yeah, like because we're all amiable and we're cool and we keep what the target in the end is. Any changes or, concepts that get rejected, I'm always fine with it, because like, as long as we're marching towards this end goal and that target doesn't move, I'm happy. Let's hit that target, right? So
Another watch that you designed that I got to spend a little time with and create some content was the Laco, the Fallout watch. The With that particular one, and maybe just watches in general, did you come up with that kind of concept and pitch it to Laco, or does Laco come to you with the idea? And how does it normally work? Like, do
yeah,
you come? Yeah.
that one was an anomaly. Everything about that job was an anomaly. That's the watch that really got, like, that one propelled, like, that. After that came out, I was like, work started coming in more regularly. That was a big project for me, and I love doing that. And so I was working with Ariel in a blog to watch, and as I said, I was working on some design stuff and making their media kits on the back end still at that time, I believe, and I was writing for them. And I'd stopped kind of doing the straps because I was like, okay, that stepping stone has been gotten me here. Now I'm writing watches, I'm reviewing them, I'm getting to meet people and brands. I think this is the next stone. I'm going to put my energy into this now. So Laco had that Erbstuck watch series where they're like aged and weathered, right? And the reason they did this, and it was like built out of like people on a forum who are like, man, I found one of these like old, Laco Fliegers. They're like 55 millimeters. They're like unwearable. That like you buy them and they just sit there and you're like, cool, I have this. It's too big to actually wear and not be ridiculous.
Mhm.
So there's people like, oh, it'd be cool if you could get a smaller one that looks like how those rough, worn ones have aged. Even with the cracked, like the loom has fallen out. So some of the original Erbstucks they used to offer, like they could poke with a pin and crack the loom. Maybe they still do that, but you could have like busted loom in there. And it makes sense because, again, what's the reason this wants to exist? Enthusiasts want to experience this watch, but like the actual thing that exists is ridiculous. So they were like, hey, can we make something that, and Laco came up with this technique of aging it. That's their proprietary thing. And it looks really legit. And I actually, there's a lot of people at the time that, the Fotina debate was raging, right? And people,
Oh yeah.
People hated it, but that made me want to see it because I'm like, they look pretty accurate. Like, let me see one. So they sent me one, and I was like, this is like, it's impressive. Like, it feels and looks old. Like, even looking really, really close, like I was like, man, they've really done a good job making this thing like this heritage look. I think it's fascinating. And so I did a review. It was a positive review because I did think it was cool, and my photos. And then they were like, "Oh, that's really cool. Hey, and Nara was like, "Yeah, he's a designer. He does our stuff. Maybe we could pitch you a concept." And they were like, "Yeah, yeah, we were gonna say maybe you could pitch us something. What do you want to do? We're doing a collaboration." And so Ariel and I went away. He was like, "Okay, like let's do something with the Erbstuck and see what we can do, and take it away." And so he left me to my own devices, and I do my research. I'm looking at things, and there's a designer I like called Iris Hausler, not designer, sorry, an artist, and she makes these big installations where everything's just like, it's like a scene that you come and it's like maybe partly cataloged in these cases, and you can figure out like, what is this world I'm living in? Like, it's like an alternate reality set piece that you walk into. And I've got to see one of her pieces during that what is it called? Nuit Blanche that they do here. She did a big one in a parking garage, an installation. It was amazing. And things look legit old and aged. And I was like, oh, I love this, like this tactical feel. So I'm like, okay. And so I was like, the only thing I came around with, and when I finally reeled back in with Ariel, I was like, man, like I have this idea, like, okay, the Erbstuck is to try and recreate something that has existed in real life, but to make it at a wearable size. Because it's faux Tina, and people are like, oh, it's fake. Like, well, the problem of it being faux kind of evaporates in a weird way if it's something that couldn't exist possibly. Like, it's improbable. It's not from this world. I don't really know what to do. And we used to talk about like games and gaming design, and he knew I kind of had for the aesthetics of this. And he was like, well, what about Fallout? I love Fallout. I want to do a Fallout watch. And I was like, oh my God. Like, and then I took that away. And then I was like, I could make it like this watch exists in that world. So I did a lot of research and came up, we presented to them Like it was done. The concept was done. It was drawn out. The packaging, the like idea that there was going to be the manual and all the little artifacts that came with it. And I'd even started to look up like, oh, if I had to work with prop makers, who would these people be? And like kind of, you know, okay, tag that for later. And then we presented it to them, and they were like, I love it. Um, let's have it for Wind Up New York, which was like literally months away. And they're like, we'll make the watch head. Like you send us the art and specs for the watch head, and we'll make the watch head. Can you make the strap, the packaging, and all the other stuff? And I just went, yes. And then got off that call and went, oh no, what have I done? So I made the first strap, like I half bought, half made. There's like the bund with the vents in it. So I made the first few buns and like punched them out myself and made them and like put them with this other strap that I had spec that I found that I ordered, and I weathered it myself and did that. And I was like, okay, like that's the first bund. And then I found another manufacturer to make a strap maker to make a couple from scratch, also that everything matched nice. Like the leather was a little mismatched from my original prototype. So I was like, yeah, remake all this. So he sent a couple of those, and then yeah, I had to like spec the tin, spec the thing. I you know reach out to those prop makers and was like, could you weather these if we make this? Can you do this? Can you make the bottle caps for me? Can you do this? And I found this printer that I used to work with. Hey, I need these manuals and I need to print, like I'm going to do printing on them that makes them look old. And making those Polaroids. It comes with these fake Polaroids. That was actually quite a noodle scratcher of how to make those, but we figured out with cardstock without making actual Polaroids to make something that reads as like, oh, this is a Polaroid and like feels like it, Fun fact, some of the stuff that's aged, so all the edges on the manuals and things, I personally hand dyed and sanded to make them feel old. So like when the things came off the press, I made this clamp and I'd clamp them, and I was in the backyard with a power sander clamping these manuals together, sanding them and staining the edges. So all of that was like, and then yeah, I just brought it to New York, and it was just like, it was such a crazy whirlwind. And I was just like, by the time I was at the booth at Wind Up NYC, and I like came in with the strap and the watch, and they had the heads, and we put them together and they put them on the table, and I was like, this, like, it like sunk in like a week later because it was just such like I had whiplash from it. It was the fastest turnaround ever for anything. And but yeah, that was a fun project, and I really have to credit that with kind of bringing me to where I am. I don't think without that opportunity I'd be sitting here talking to you. So very thankful for that.
That's cool, man. That's very cool.
Amazing.
So of all the projects so far, which one best represents pure teenage grandpa?
Oh no. That's a hard.
Pick one of your children, damn it.
Like, okay. So in part, I guess there's one part I do try to remove my desires from watches as much as possible and use my logic. They're informed by my logic, but maybe my personality isn't in them. They're not, teenage grandpa. So I will say, two that come to mind. I mean, the Workhorse comes to mind also. And the Radox you just mentioned. Like, yeah, it's hard to pick one. I think I'll say that the Workhorse was the first one that I think, if I believe correctly, that was the first watch I was asked to do the entire thing. Because I had done dials, I'd redone people's logos, I had done type for people, I'd done portions of things. And like even the Seals watch, like I said, the case and all that kind of already existed. So this was like from nothing. So that one holds a special place in my heart, and I'm very proud of that one. And it is kind of out there and different. And I feel like that one was, and that was also like I presented some concepts, and I was like, well, and then there's this one. That's the one I really want to do, and that was the one they were like, we're going for that. So I was like, there's one that hasn't been released yet that I can't talk about too much, that is coming out, that I think that's going to be.
Yes, you do. Yes, you can. You wouldn't have brought it up if you didn't want to talk about it.
Well, so there will be something in the not too distant future from Prevail that will be, again, so little backstory. I presented 3 concepts to Hassan for Prevail originally, and we ended up going with concept 1, and they're all wild because, again, it was a unique project. But concept 1 was the safest. Concept 2 was a little more out there, and concept 3 was like, this is like, I don't even know what this is out there. This is out there. And we did Concept One was the first line that's launched and is still going successfully, the Onward series. And then he came back to me and was like, let's do number 3. I want to see number 3. So that's going to be, that one will be cool when it comes out. Can't say too much more, but it's the thing he's been teasing on there and showing these like tight macro shots. I will say, but also, even though this just came out, this is one of them, the moonshot. Even though I didn't design the whole thing, I just got to kind of do the dial and some of the hands and kind of tinker with this already excellent existing design. This is the first watch of other, because I've done other collaboration pieces. None of them say Teenage Grandpa on it. In fact, I was like, no, I don't want to put. They'd say, oh, put Teenage Grandpa on it. I'd say, no, I don't want to put that on there. It's not about me. I want to make the object and have the object exist in the world and whatever. But this is the first thing where it's very small, but it actually says Teenage Grandpa and has my logo on it. And so this one is kind of like, in some ways, like, when I think of metal and all of those things and the lightning, and there's just the weird way of which this just kind of, this manifested in a way. This is up there. So I'd say it's kind of between this and the Workhorse as things that exist right now. But there is something that has been prototyped that, I've been wearing it a lot, and I'm just like, man, this is like, it makes me nervous because I feel like there's a bit more of me in that one. Like when I make things where it's just the objective, I feel more comfortable putting them out there. But you put a little bit of yourself in something, and you're like, oh, that's a piece of me out there now. What if people don't, like, which is exciting and thrilling. And I think people are gonna think it's cool. They're gonna think it's crazy also. But Hassan was like, yeah, I want to do, it's crazy. I want to do that. Let's do crazy. That's our objective, right? So
I want the listeners to know that I had nothing to do with the most recent Isotope plug. That was not me. I had written something out and I didn't use it on purpose because we already talked about Isotope a couple of times. So this was all Matt.
Just so you know, Brent's not here today. We bill Mark $20 per mention. So
yeah, it's costing me a lot.
Yeah.
So by comparison to many of your other works, the Dietrich TC Pure went the opposite direction, minimal, almost sterile.
Yeah.
What drove that restraint?
So that was driven by Emmanuel. So Emmanuel is a designer I really admire and look up to. And I should have, now I feel kind of bad I hadn't mentioned him sooner. Yeah. First off, if you've ever met him, very friendly, lovely man. Like I really like the guy. He's just a nice guy. Just full stop. And he's one of those early micro brands when he came out with the organic time. Like I remember seeing one of those in person and being like, holy crap, this is like, there's nothing like this at the time, and it was so weird and out there and also attainable. And I was like, this is so cool. So I got on the radar with that. And anyways, a funny story about working with him at all. He was at a trade show event, watch fair, and he had this table, and his stands for all the watches were very unstable, which I didn't know. And I came over to his table, and I'm like, hey, and I'm excited to see him and meet him. I'm like, hey, how's it going? And I like just bumped the table, and literally everything fell over. Literally everything. And I was just like, oh my God. Like I'm trying to be like, hey, just be cool. All right, go up to this guy. Hey man, how's it going? Bonk. And then he's like, oh. And then he's like, oh no, don't feel. He's like, it's me. I designed these stands, are too top heavy. And I was like, well, I do retail design. Like I could design some stands for you, which I actually did. I don't think he ever produced them, but I did design something. But then the conversation went other ways, and we started just talking about design. He kind of mentored me too a little bit, gave me advice, and he's been very supportive of me. And then when that Time Companion came out, I was one of the people like online waiting for it to drop, to be like order because I really wanted it. And so I got the original Time Companion. I love that watch still. It's super cool. And that he was like, oh, let's collaborate. And the first designs I sent to him, he has like this organic philosophy, and I was trying to take on what he does and kind of make again, I was in my like client mode brain, and I was trying to make this like version of something he would do almost. And we kept going back and forth. He's like, no, not like that, not like that, not like that. And he's like, let's get on a call. Let me talk to you. And he was like, look, he's like, I already think this way. like the things I get and I appreciate what you're doing. And as like a client design, if like this would be, these are great. But that's not why I want to do a thing with you. He's like, your logo for Sentient, it's very simple. And he pointed out some other of my graphic design work, which it's not online anymore. Some of the logos and things like that. He's like, these are to the point, simple, stripped down to the barest minimum, and they still communicate. That's what I want you to do for me, because I don't do that. Like, how can we just like really boil it down? And then I was like, oh, okay. And so I went away and I was like, all right, well, what exudes confidence and purity, and like these things that are like, like the purest form of this. Well, the purest thing to do is like, it's got this cool bracelet and these hexagons, and like just to mimic and mirror that throughout. So I came up with the geometric inner shapes and the raised little pips around the edge, and then was like, yeah, okay, well, I want it to be confident. The most confident thing is take the logo off. Like, just no type. Like, this is just an object, this is just a thing that exists, and it's just not about, it's not about the brand or anything. It's just about this one piece, and let's make it as monolithic as possible. So I'm gonna steel brushed dial that matches the whole thing, and it looks like one piece of some confident, it's just this one confident object that exists in the world to tell the time. It's your time companion, right? So it just tells the time. It doesn't brand. It doesn't do anything else. Like, it's the purest version of this possible. And I sent that to him, and I showed him, and I explained it, gave him and he was like, that's exactly what I wanted. Let's do that. And we actually got really far collaborating. He actually made the dials, and then he's like, oh yeah, how do we launch this? What do we do? Like, because the problem was we're both designers, and we got really into like designer nerd mode, and like, let's make this thing exist. And then we were like, oh, like now what? Like, what's the plan? What are we doing? Like, so it was kind of and then we came with a launch strategy and stuff, and then worked with Block to Watch, helped us promote that, and it was part of that, and it was worked out in the end. But yeah, that was and that watch came out at a I think that came out just as the pandemic might have been kicking off. I feel like it came out at a weird time. I remember when that thing launched, but yeah. Just stripped back, and it was something that, it was a nice thing, like just kind of like that story I mentioned with Jose. Like, I was chuffed, and he said, no, we're going to make this so it's a bit of you. I want to have you in this, really. Like, Teenage Grandpa has to go on this watch. Like, it's part of the brief, basically. Like, having a piece of you in this moonshot thunderclap is important to me, and I think it should be important to you, and it would be important to people who respond to it. And I was very, it's very confidence boosting. Then similarly with Emmanuel being like, I want how you solve the problem, was like, oh, do it like me, not like you, was like, that was very, I really appreciated that moment as a designer to designer, especially someone who I respect so much and love his work.
Yeah, it's a great story, and you almost sledgehammered your way into designing some display things.
almost, yeah, totally. I mean, yeah, it was I was mortified when that happened. I was like,
I bet.
Oh my goodness, I can't believe, like, literally the first time I meet him, I just knocked, literally everything went chunk, and it's spent like catching things coming off the table. Nothing hit the floor, thankfully. Just like,
At least it
that
made,
couldn't have gone worse.
but it did make the first meeting memorable, I'm sure. So
Yeah.
that's always a good thing.
I don't recommend, though, like, that as a first meeting to other designers out there. Try not to.
There's my strategy. So here's a question for you, Matt. In the future, when others look back at your body of work towards the conclusion of your career, what is the impact that you would like your work to have had on members of the horology community?
Well, yeah, it's something I haven't. That's an interesting question in that I haven't really thought that far ahead about any of this. I'm just trying to live kind of in the moment. So I do have to think about it for a second here. That's a good question. I think, well, first thought, best thought, I'll just go with my knee-jerk reaction is, I guess, kind of links back to even just like maybe, how I would want to be thought. Like, look, horology's been really good to me, and the watch community has been really good to me. And, like, I used to go to these, like, when I was just in the agencies, and I go to these design events, and like, people would just, try to puff their chests out and one up one another. And, they're supposed to be for, like, I'd go to these graphic design events, and I want to talk type and nerdy stuff. And most of them were just like people wanted to drink too much and, belittle one another and flex on one another. And I'm just like, this is like, I felt like I'd never fit in there, and I was really awkward, and I didn't really do well at these events ever. And people would like come in and interrupt me talking to somebody and just walk away. And I was like, I'm bombing at these. Like, I suck. And the first time I went to a wind up, it was the opposite. Like, everyone was like, "Hey man, how's it going? Da, 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 let me talk to you." Da, da, da. And then like the first time I went to like a larger event, like a watch time. I don't think it was a watch time, but one of the more swanky events where it was like, and then Max Busser is just like, "Hey man, how's it going?" And I'm like, "Oh my god!" Like, it's just like I just want to, I was just like, "This is crazy." So I just hope that what I put out there, just the idea of like positivity and inspiring people to just kind of just to yeah to keep that going, just to keep the positivity and the good things about this space alive. There are certainly, I don't talk about this really much, but like there are certainly toxic aspects to, horology and subcultures of this kind of like community that are toxic, not good. And, like whether it be from financial reasons or even just like, I trying to, again, the chest puffing and the, I'm better than you, like that certainly exists out there. It's the exception, not the rule, I find, at all levels. Like, everyone's pretty much lovely. And I just, like, I would like to say, like, I would hope someone would look at something I made and be like, oh, like, there's a reason for this to exist. There's a reason to do this. And also, I hope, if anything, I would love for people in the future, if they were to be like, yeah, I like this. If my watches survive to be vintage and people still care about it, it would be so fun for someone to be like, oh, like, I'm looking for one of these like weird Matt Smith Johnson, whatever, just like I've looked for that female designer whose name is escaping me right now, but like, just like I was looking for that Mares watch, like, I wish I could find her and be like, if she's still around, like, you don't understand, like, you may have made this, and I don't think it was a successful project either. I think it kind of flunked from what I have found, but like, it has value. It's cool. I like it. I think it's cool. That's it. Like, as long as somebody somewhere gets a good feeling from it, that's the legacy I'd like to leave behind. And just like positivity and be nice. Like,
Yeah.
I know it's not written on any of the watches. Maybe I do have to make a piece that just says, be nice. Like, I work in my office. My studio is a separate little it used to be what used to be the garage, and it's a separate building. My studio. And, I do have right next to where I work a large poster, and it just says, work hard and be nice to people.
Yeah, there you go. Be nice, or hanky shanky will get you.
Yeah, that's right.
On the face path.
Don't mess with the hanky shanky.
Yeah. It's that's right. That's right.
Those razors look pretty intimidating, I gotta say.
Yeah.
You ever thought of starting your own brand from scratch? Just you?
Yeah, a part of it is I've thought about, and I still think about it. A lot of it is funding, just to be honest. Like, I know I could crowdfund and things. I feel like I would need a partner to do it. And I've just not had that come together yet, where someone's like brought it up, or it's been like obvious, where like, oh, like, there are parts of this that I'm really good at, like, not to pat myself on the back, but there's parts of this job that I understand I do I do it all day, every day, and I know what I'm doing. I know that also, though, there's like logistics, like you have to get these things have to be shipped. And I touch some of these things and hear about it as I work with clients and the brands I work with. I'm aware of all these, and there's a lot of parts of the running a business to keep it going where I'm just like, well, I'm crap at that. Like, this is not sledgehammer mat work. This is like someone who doesn't get freaked out by like spreadsheets, or, like, I just, for whatever reason, like, not like I'm terrible at math or anything, but like, just accounting stresses me out. Like, I feel like I'm going to make a mistake, go to jail. Like, I'm just like, come tax time. It's just not something I have the confidence or strength in. I've tried to build it up, and I'm like, man, I just know there's a component missing, I guess. And I don't know what it is or who it would be in the future, or if it'll ever come to pass. So it just things haven't lined up, but I've certainly have ideas, even have concepts that I've made of things where I was like, I'd love to do this, but like, how? And I've looked into them, and I'm just like, man, like, it's just, there's always just something kind of just hasn't quite happened. But it is something I've thought of. I think on a smaller level, I've thought of, now that I've relaunched my site, of doing like, oh, maybe I could get back into doing like, like this new fun logo. Maybe I could do have hats, right? And like they're thinking of the trucker cap that inspired me, and I'd love to make a trucker cap that has my new logo on it. And whether or not that it's horology, it's just kind of like, it's a fun kind of ironic, statement. And I don't know if I'll do pocket squares again, but like I've thought of starting to get into those things, and I might do some like more collaborations of like straps and some things that'll have a little more of my personality in it, and putting my brand personality of me personally, and things I like, colors I respond to, and I'm the part of the brief maybe a little bit. I'm gonna do a little. There's a couple of those small things on the horizon, I think, that'll come out. But yeah, I've thought about it, and I think someday like to do it. But yeah, there's just a piece of it where it's, again, I go back to like, why should this exist, or even, first off, why, and then from the practical, like, how does this sustain itself? And I don't have all the answers there yet. I'm missing something, so it just hasn't come to fruition yet. But I'm hopeful that one day I'll get to have something that's got a bit more of that kind of personal element in there, because there are things I'd like to say, and I'd like to say them maybe through a watch. And again, I've been fortunate where I feel like a lot of the values that I have, like, I'm sure you talking to me, like, I'm pretty open about who I am and how I feel and think about things. And so, like, I think that's why I work with Vero. It's why I work with Jose and Isotope. It's why I work with Hassan and Prevail. Like, Prevail has a lot of my values in it. Like, I'm not a veteran or any of these things, but like, I clicked with him because when he came to me with his mission, I was like, I get this. Like, this is something I would like to do, like,
Yeah.
do the Ride to Conquer Cancer every year. I love raising money for that cause, and I want to give back. It's, like, I feel like with that, it's like, look at a big problem. Like, well, what can I do for cancer? I can't go in a lab and tinker with beakers. I'm useless. Like, I don't know anything. Like, there's nothing I can do. But what I can do, I know how to push pedals for long periods of time and be uncomfortable, and I don't care. And I can do that, and people will pay me to do that, so I can raise money for this cause. And so, happy to contribute how I can there.
It's kind of funny. We sort of have little bullet points we're looking at here, and the next one was, I was going to ask you about how you got involved with Ride to Conquer Cancer. Were you into cycling all along, kind of, or?
Yeah, I've been into cycling. So, I mentioned earlier I used to skateboard when I was younger, and like by the time I was like in my 20s, it was hurting. Like, skateboarding hurt, and my ankles hurt, and I could not take a fall the same way. And like, I was just like, I don't think this is, I can't keep doing this. Like, I can't. Like, I might have put out with a couple of like other like old bloke skateboarders, and we did, we actually even later than this, we had a skate competition. I used to work at Vice in Toronto. They had an agency called Virtue, and I was their creative director there. And we had a skate comp in the parking lot. A bunch of old blokes. And that was much later. That was when I was in my maybe like late 20s, early 30s. And man, did I hurt after. Like, I was in so much pain. But I like being active, and I like doing like sports, but I've never done team sports. I've always needed a sport where it's like I can just go. I used to BMX. I got in a horrific accident when I was young, and I could never quite. I was too scared after I got really injured. But I would ride a bike, to and from band practice. I played in a metal band, played extreme metal drumming again, because A, I like metal, but B, like, running double kick is like, there's an athleticism to it, and I had to train to do that, and that was fun. So, come my early 30s, I think it was and I used to like still have a bike that I would commute to the train station and take the train downtown or whatever with. But my the daughter, the mother of my daughter, and my ex wife was she lost her father early to like he had a heart attack basically, and she was like, I don't want that to happen to you, and you got to find some cardio to do, because I think it's important you take care of your heart health, and men don't typically do that, so you should find something. I was like, well, I already kind of have a bike, and I like that, and that's good for cardio, right? So I looked on Kijiji, and I was looking at bikes and road bikes, and they're expensive. And then I saw, well, it's fixie. You remove the gears from the bike, and all of a sudden it's way more affordable. So I just bought one on Kijiji just to give it a go. And I loved it. Like I just, for some reason, there was something about it that was just like, oh, it's got a little bit of there's an extra challenge when you can't stop pedaling too. And there's a hill by my house, which the first time I rode up it, I got to the top, got off my bike, and emptied my stomach on the side of the road because I was like, oh my God. And now that doesn't even register as a hill, you know? But like, I remember doing that and being like, okay, I have to be able to get up this without, like, just, I know I can do better. And it was just a drive to push me and push me. And then the ride itself, one of my friends who I knew from the music scene from back in the day, from metal scene, his dad worked at the Ride to Conquer Cancer and was like one of the people who helped get fundraising. And he saw me riding my fixie, and he went, "That is a stupid bike." And he's a big road bike guy. And he's going, What the hell? Why wouldn't you want a freewheel?" And then he says to me, "Bet you couldn't do the Ride to Conquer Cancer on that stupid thing." And I went, "Oh yeah, well, I'll show you. It's on. Like I love a challenge. Challenge accepted." So I just started training, and I thought, the first time I did it was quite like I was, it felt a lot harder the first couple years I did it, but I've just never stopped. Like even through the pandemic and when it was virtual, I was like, well, I'm going to pick a 120-kilometer route. I'm going to do it just one day instead of the two, but I'm going to do it. I'm going to still try to raise funds because it's just, like I said, like it's something that worries me, and it's just such a terrible disease. And like, I don't know, like there's so many things in the world. Like you look at things happening politically or geopolitically and you're like, I can't do anything to affect any change here. I can raise money for someone qualified to do something about this. So that's what I will do. And yeah, we're doing it again this year with Worn and Wound backing us, and we got great sponsors. Boulder is getting involved again. We're going to do some cool stuff with them.
Cool.
Strap Habit, and a bunch of other things. There should be an article coming out. But yeah, I love it, and I'll continue doing it until I drop dead. I think that's my plan.
The link to where people can donate on your Instagram.
I will put the link. I think it's usually up there. I think it might be last year's link if it's still there. I know I've updated or I may have removed it. I think I just put my new Teenage Grandpa link. I will put the link in my
Send it to
bio.
me. I'll put it in the notes for this show.
Oh, wonderful. Thank you so much. Yeah, donating status. And if you if you're doing the ride, if you are someone who does this ride or whatever, I mean, you can join my team. If you don't have a team, I have a team. It's called Can't Stop, Won't Stop. You feel free to try and sign up and join us, or at least, hey, wave to me out there when you're riding. It's a wonderful event, it's a wonderful community. You hear it's just such stories of resilience and courage from people while you're out there, and survivors and people affected by this. And it's just every year you get like 20 more reasons to do it, and they just keep building. And can't stop, won't stop, man. I don't know. That's it.
All right, we got maybe 10 minutes left. Let's kick in some rapid fires here. Jason, go for it.
Okay.
All right. What's a watch that's quite popular in the horology community that you're just not a fan of from the design aesthetic?
I'm not big on the Rolex Daytona. I don't, just does, if you love it, I'm not, no shade to you, but there's things with that. It does nothing for me. And there's like the lugs are asymmetrical. Like one is thinner on one side than the other. Like there's little things with that I don't know. It doesn't sit well with me.
Fair enough. One brand you'd drop everything to work with.
Oh man. The ultimate fantasy would be Urwerk. And I know I'm pronouncing that in a basic way. There's a better way to say that brand name, but Urwerk would be number one. That's like my grail watch is an Urwerk, and they're probably my favorite. Yeah.
That's cool.
Metal band that deserves a watch collab.
Oh. I'm gonna say Meshuggah. And if you know what they sound like, they're a metal band from Sweden, and it is, if I had to describe them, what they sound like to you, I would say fractal mandala nightmare. Like it is like, like I don't know, the sound almost has shapes to it. It's such a distinct sound. I feel like you could make some really cool and very different forms off of that as an inspiration point.
Wow.
Very cool.
In your daily life, are you team analog or team digital watches?
Okay, I love both. I mostly wear analog watches. I love digital watches though. But I'm going to say analog.
Very cool.
Couple of listener questions. This one is by @watch Sixto on Instagram. If you could go back and do anything differently, what would you do and why?
Yeah, the only thing I'd do differently is just, I guess I could have believed in myself maybe a little more early on and not felt. I wish I could have shed some of those insecurities a little sooner.
Yeah.
That's really it.
This next question is from Bradley Taylor. Yes,
Oh, Bray!
that
Oh,
Bradley
shut
Taylor.
up. He is amazing, and he's got something that he showed me that is just when it launches, people's heads are gonna crack
I
open.
think we saw it
Anyways.
in September at the Toronto show. Yeah.
Oh my god, I love that thing. Anyways, I don't know what I'm allowed to say, so I'll just keep my. Sorry,
I-
Bradley, you're really good. It's so good.
I've seen it. It's incredible. I agree.
Yeah.
With
Yeah.
that. No.
Oh,
So this question is, what is one subtle sign of a thoughtful designed watch? And what is one feature that makes you think that the design was uninspired?
a subtle feature.
Well, I'll leave it to Bradley to come up with the best question at the end of the show.
That is a really good question. A subtle feature, like it's not one thing, but again, and I've kind of spoken to this already, but like when something has its purpose, it just looks like it's fit to the purpose and you don't think about it. Like the best design is kind of invisible, right? Like you're like, I know what context this is for and what this is appropriate for and what it is meant for. Then that's like that's a really good sign of just like when it's thoughtless and effortless, like that's a really good sign. It's not one detail necessarily, but like that's it. And what was the second half of that? Sorry.
What makes a watch design uninspired?
Uninspired? I mean, I kind of already spoke to that.
Laziness?
Yeah, lazy. You can tell when things are just kind of slapped on there. Like I can tell certainly when someone's like, oh, we got a collab, we got to just put this logo on there. And sometimes collaborations are great and they do things where you can tell they've pulled in the essence of something, even like, I don't know, like SpongeBob, you can tell when someone's like pulled in the essence of something and it's fun and it's got a playfulness and it feels appropriate to that. And whether you like the design or not, you can see that it's been like, and I've seen a few different SpongeBob watches. There's quite a few out there, surprisingly, but like, there's one that Unimatic did. It was kind of unexpected. It was all blacked out and the strap was yellow. And it was in a weird way, it was appropriate because SpongeBob is kind of weird and unexpected. And I felt like it pulled something from that vibe in a way that you wouldn't quite predict. And then there's that recent Spinnaker with the crazy eyes and all. And again, that's super, like, it's wild. Like if you've ever watched the cartoon, like that's, when I have a kid, so I get to watch the cartoon, I have an excuse to watch SpongeBob.
We don't
like,
need excuses.
It's wild. It's wild. So like it feels, yeah. So that's late. Yeah. Anyways, there you
go. Yeah. I like that Formex that they did with Scottish watches where they did an aventurine dial when everybody else was doing aventurine dials. But this one had sparkles of actual lume in the aventurine, which is kind of neat and, subtle. And then on the case back, they had with UV light a castle in Scotland that would show through the crystal of the case back, and it wasn't there if there was no UV light. So these little subtle, thoughtful, inspired details I like as well.
And just being different. Like that's the thing I like to see. I think if when people do, and it could be little details, but they're different. And actually, I know Bradley does this because we've talked about it, but like he has like little details in his watch and like, if you look at how some of the numbers are shaped and the applied, it like people don't quite curve them like that. But there's these little details throughout, and you're like, yeah, man, like you can tell that the thought and care went into all of these,
and the time.
And everything is just so, and the spacing and everything is just bang on. Okay, these are rapid fire. I'm going to stop rambling. Give me another one.
Well, that's pretty much it. That's pretty much our show.
Oh wow!
On behalf of the three of us, thank you so much for being on our show with us.
Oh, thank you so much for having me.
What's the easiest way to get a hold of you if people want to follow your work? Is it the Instagram?
Yeah, Instagram is number one. Like that's where I've got most of my work through Instagram, and that's where I've had a lot of my first conversations with people who end up being clients is on Instagram. So that's at teenage.grandpa on Instagram. I don't have any other social media. And then my website is it just went live is teenagegrandpa, no space, teenagegrandpa.com. You can see my work up there, and I'm trying to stay on top of that, update it, every couple months or so. I'll get a couple more projects released. As they release, I try to put them up. So there's some new work to add to that soon. Yeah, and then that's really it, man. Like I'm through those two medium. I just try to keep it simple, and you know, I'm not gonna go on TikTok. I'm not. I don't know. I'm not cool. I'm old.
We're old. You're not old. You're not off the hook, Jason. The timepiece shows Vancouver and Montreal are right around the corner. You want to throw in an elevator pitch for all that there?
Yeah, absolutely. They're occurring last weekend of the month for April and May. So Vancouver Timepiece Show public days are April 25th and 26th. Uh, for Montreal, which is our inaugural show, May 30th and 31st. Both should be amazing shows. We have some great venues. Tickets are available for free at timepieceshow.com. So if you want to come check it out, it will be an amazing experience. And very excited to have those. And I will give a quick plug for the Toronto show, even though that's far away still in September. We're actually almost sold out of space. We've got some incredible brands and some really new things happening, which are very, very exciting for the horology community for all of Canada. So we're very excited about that. So give us a follow. And yeah, hope to see you at the shows. It's a lot of fun. If you haven't come, definitely come, because it's an amazing experience. Just like Matt was talking about with the wind up shows when he first went to them, it's really an amazing experience. So I encourage everyone to come.
The Time to Calibrate podcast is released every 2 weeks and can be found wherever you download your podcasts. Have a nit to pick, an axe to grind, or just want to ask us a question? You can email us at timetocalibrate@gmail.com or DM us at timetocalibrate on Instagram. If you like the show, tell a friend, and or better yet, leave a review on iTunes. Every little bit helps. And that's the show. Until next time, T2C out.